Today we're taking a look at the four element stones from Luc Besson's epic sci-fi film, The Fifth Element, starring Bruce Willis and Milla Jojovich. Hi, I'm Rob, and welcome to A Constantly Racing Mind. 1997 was a big year for the film industry. Besides The Fifth Element, there was the event Horizon, Batman and Robin, which I barely remember, Austin Powers, Man of Mystery, Harrison Ford in Air Force One, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black, Good Will Hunting, Gattaca, Lolita, Jodie Foster in Contact, and Paul Verhoeven's adaptation of Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers. And of course, James Cameron's Titanic and many more. Now, I've been a fan of Luc Besson's films for a long time. 1994's Leon the Professional with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman. 1999's The Messenger, the story of Joan of Arc, once again with Milla Jovovich. And the fun family crime film The Family with Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer in 2013. Lucy, another sci-fi film with Scarlett Johansson in 2014. Do you remember she was once married to Ryan Reynolds? More recently, 2017's Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, and Anna, which came out last year, and eventually I got around to seeing La Femme Nikita. We first learn of the four element stones in the opening scenes, which takes place in 1914, Egypt. Archaeology was huge in the late 1880s, it was well into the 1930s, and is still going on today. The Great Courses Plus has a great class on archaeology, what it is and what it is not, as well as courses on ancient Egypt. Now, I'm not sponsored by them, but I learned a lot from them and I thought I would share. It's inside the ancient temple of the Divine Light that Professor Piccoli and Billy Masterson, played by the late Luke Perry, are investigating the inscriptions on the walls. Now, when the three planets are in eclipse, the black hole, like a door, is open. Evil comes sowing terror and chaos. Then arrange the elements against the terror, just so water, fire, earth, air, four elements around the fifth, in which the history of the universe resides. All the strength, all the hope, protect us from. And then the professor trails off as the priest he is with interrupts him to toast his discovery. However, we know that this is a weapon against evil. Now, according to ancient and medieval science, a fifth element was called aether, and also called quintessence. It is a material that fills the region of the universe above the terrestrial sphere. Dark matter? But the scientists say no. Go figure. The Mondoshoans come and they take the stones from the temple, telling the priest that the stones are not safe on Earth anymore. Probably due to the great interest in Egyptology, and it is less than 10 years later that Howard Carter will discover King Tut's tomb. The commander of the Mondoshoans leaves a special key with the priest, and he is told to pass his knowledge down to a new generation. And then they leave. About 300 years later, in 2263, we find ourselves in the future where we meet Milla Jovovich as Leeloo, the return of the Supreme Being and the embodiment of the fifth element. Now, she was returning from her hideout in space when she is shot down by the shape-shifting Mangalore. We also meet Korban Dallas, played by Bruce Willis, a former major who flew spacecraft and now flies a taxi cab in the futuristic New York City. We also meet a new priest, Father Vito Cornelius, played by the recently passed Ian Holm, and his acolyte David. And finally, we come upon Chris Tucker as the flamboyant Ruby Rod, entertainment show host. Now, moving from the flying vehicles in New York City to a floating space liner over the beautiful planet of Flotsam Paradise, we are told that the opera diva Plava Laguna has the stones in her care. Now, during the famous opera that the diva sings and dances, we see that Korban is enthralled with the aria from the opera Lucia de l'Amour, which she is singing from. Yes, it is an actual opera, and was played by Besson's fiancée du jour, Mai Wen. At the same time, we see that the Mangalore going to the diva's stateroom where they think the case of stones are. Leeloo shows up and a fight ensues, and this is where Besson cuts from Plava Laguna's aria in the theater to the Mangalore, who pretty much are shooting up the place, and Leeloo too. A side note here, Mai Wen was pretty disappointed as she worked pretty hard on the role after Besson's begged her to get her to work on the film, and we only see half of her performance. Soon after the Mangalores attack the theater during the opera, the diva is shot, chaos ensues, and Dallas rushes to her aid, and that's when she reveals that the stones are hidden within her. Talk about indigestion. So that was kind of an introduction to the stones. So let's take a look. Let's open it up. As I'm pulling these out, they seem to be a little bit more darker than I would have expected. I was expecting something a little bit more like sandstone or pinkish terracotta as opposed to more of a mahogany, but I'm pretty sure that once again the lights on the actual item were probably, washing them out a little bit when they were actually filming the prop. The stones represent earth, wind, fire, and water. We see the stones in action once they are recovered at the end when Korban, Ruby Rod, Father Cornelius, and David take the stones and place them in their separate altars. Overall, I think these are slightly larger. Then again, that's what I was looking for, something a little bit larger for display. I realized that Plava Laguna probably wouldn't be able to fit these huge stones in her body. Maybe something a little smaller, but a lot of people like the larger size, and I do too. I think this will actually work out pretty well. This has always been a favorite film of mine. Luc Besson created a colorful and diverse future where the cities are large and impressive. The vivid colors and great music, besides what people call Plava Laguna's performance as the diva dance, as the scene goes from a typical aria to a modern dance. Eric Serra's music is not only memorable, but it's also very re-listenable. I also enjoyed the Rai song Alaktari by Khaled. Besides having a DVD copy of The Fifth Element, having these stones on display, it brings my whole sci-fi film collection to a whole nother level. The Etsy artist where I got these 3D prints was from Mir 3D Art out of Latvia on the Baltic Sea, just south of Estonia and north of Lithuania. And I'll leave a description in the link below. Now, my element stones came in a very reasonable time, considering that the pandemic and Austrias was always replying back to me about, the condition and where everything is. Now, as I mentioned before, these seem pretty large, and that's because I ordered them large. They actually come anywhere between 5.5 inches to 7.7 inches, all the way up to 11 inches tall, which is what I got. Now, for me, collecting props gives me a way of connecting with a film, with a feeling that I once had, and of more time when we can actually go to the theaters. So, I hope you learned something today, because I did while I was making this video. So why don't you click here for my most recent video. So if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. If not, then slap the thumbs down. And subscribe for more movies and prop related videos. And hit the bell to be notified of my upcoming vids. Take care.